There are clearly good movies and clearly bad movies, but sometimes we like to speak in a clockwork accent and mumble our way through our whole, just to know what is everything in the middle. This is good, bad good.
You'll bake me a cake, you'll sing me a song, watch me blow out me fucking candles. I come here for a fucking shootout, right? A proper shootout with some proper men. Like Colonel Custer and Geronimo. Have you ever heard of them? No. Because you were too busy in your penny baking fucking fairy cakes, weren't you? Why would you do that? Because I can't kill you. No matter how much I fucking want to.
I think this is the best intro so far, hands down. I don't know what the fuck you said. That's great.
You got the beginning part though, right? Because the whole gist of it was like we like to mumble our way through. Yeah.
It's great.
I think it was well done. It started off a little rough, but in the middle, you kind of picked up steam, and you were full on Tom Hardy.
Full on.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining on this week's episode of Good, Bad, Good. We are doing Legend. That's what we are doing.
Not
we are
Tom Cruise.
not the Tom Cruise
I feel
version.
like I probably would have enjoyed that more, though.
Oh my gosh, I would have
not
enjoyed that
one.
movie more.
Well, that's a great fucking movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
So.
What is wrong with people?
Says the woman who hasn't seen Con Air.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, but Legend was like, that's a Ridley Scott
Or The
film,
Rock, right?
and-
You haven't seen The
You
Rock
haven't seen
either,
The Rock
have
either,
you?
right?
Okay, I'll stop talking. Let's move on.
Oh my lord! I can't believe you haven't seen The Rock.
I'm going to watch The Rock soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, this week we keep trucking along in our gangster movie marathon movie fest
Thing.
Gangster
No.
Movie Marathon Movie Fest, GMMMF.
Yes, and that's why you were here.
I think
Thank you.
that for this movie, we shouldn't use the sound of guns. It's got to be stabbing. Yeah, stabbing or punching. Yeah, like that. It's good. Okay, great. Done.
How are we doing today? Actually, no, I'm sorry. I wanted to. I had wrote this note down. I wanted to start this episode a little differently.
Starting different,
because
people.
this season we are picking the movies, and this week was picked by Kai. So I wanted to start this week by Kai formally apologizing to us for making us watch this,
Especially
movie.
after the last 2 weeks I picked good movies.
I will agree. I was entertained by the last two movies
Thank
that
you.
we watched. And I will say I was entertained.
Yeah, you started off really crappy, Brian. The beginning of the season, you had us watching some terrible movies.
What did I don't remember what I picked earlier in the season.
You had us watch Charlie's Angels.
No, that was me.
Oh,
That was
you
Kai.
You had us watch Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, that was bad.
Okay, that was pretty entertaining though, I think.
That was bad. Also, Charlie's Angels.
My heart
was
is like a shark fin.
entertaining.
Betty, my heart is like a shark fin. And you had us watch Roadhouse.
Which was also
Okay, yeah, that was
entertaining.
pretty bad.
I don't know. I think you've done okay, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. These last two more than make up for it though.
The last
I
two
agree.
make up for the
I agree. I was entertained by the first 25% of Legend, and then it just kept repeating itself, and I no longer cared at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
before we dive in,
But-
didn't apologize.
still waiting
but
to hear
before
you
we dive
apologize.
into
Was it, did either of you, you don't even think it was worth seeing, do you? I'm trying to figure out if I
These
feel
are
like
my
it was
notes.
worth seeing. You took notes. I was like,
I took notes.
I don't need to anymore.
one note for story, that's my note for acting, and that's my note for technical.
Yeah, good. There's
I wrote-
nothing
If you couldn't
on-
see,
11
they're
Blank.
empty. It's
It's
empty.
blank.
I wrote 11 notes down, but one of them is this is based on a true story? Okay. I realized that with about 20 minutes left in the and one of my notes is this is boring AF.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really did, though. The first, 25 minutes of the film, 40 minutes, maybe even, I was still sort of writing with it. And then I was like, this is just
Before
just
we jump into all that, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
festival of giving
But
Tom
remember
Hardy
what you were
hand
gonna say
jobs.
at 45
okay,
minutes.
that was it.
Let's give all the listeners out there the plot synopsis. Hey, Google, what is the plot synopsis for the movie Legend?
Google probably won't even know.
Here's the synopsis of Legend. Suave, charming and volatile, Reggie Cray, Tom Hardy, and his unstable twin brother Ronnie start to leave their mark on the London underworld in the 1960s. Using violence to get what they want, the siblings orchestrate robberies and murders while running nightclubs and protection rackets. With police detective Leonard Nipper Reed hot on their heels, the brothers continue their rapid rise to power and achieve tabloid notoriety.
Okay. I didn't know if she was done or not. I was also really worried that she was going to do the plot synopsis for Legend starring Tom Cruise. What are our verdicts? Kai, let's go with you first since it's your pick.
I'm going to say that this is a bad, good movie.
Brian?
Agreed.
3 for 3. Bad. This is a bad, good movie.
It's a bad, good movie.
Yeah. 3 weeks in a row we've
We got to
agreed,
start
all three
getting
of us.
more divisive movies here.
I guess so.
So
Yeah. I didn't...
Divisive? Divisive. It's divisive.
Yeah, I think it is
it could
divisive.
be divisive.
It
Just like it's
could be.
Sopranos.
Yeah.
You mean-
I mean, Sopranos. I haven't slept much this week. I don't know. I haven't slept much this week.
Just like it's like Piranhos.
What are we talking about?
It's just like it's Oreos instead of Oreos.
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 Anyways.
Oreo.
Okay.
Bad.
If you're like Kai and Brian, and this is your first time listening to this podcast, we break this movie into 3 different sections. The first section we're going to be talking about is the
That
story,
tea almost came out of my nose.
story, script, narrative structure of this 5-hour and 47-minute epic of a movie.
Felt longer.
I think it was 5 hour, 47 and 33 seconds, actually.
Yep. My only note.
After you say it, is the episode over?
Maybe. My only note. My only note is that I stopped it when Chaz, the actor Chaz
Palminteri.
No,
Palminteri.
the guy who, yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped when Chaz came on the screen, and I paused it when Chaz came on the screen, and it was only 34 minutes in, and I swear I thought I was like an hour 15.
in. Yeah.
Oh, multiple times I looked at the time and I was like, holy fuck, I still have like an hour and a half left of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
it was some weird, I don't know.
It took everything in my power to not turn this movie off in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I didn't really think I would have missed anything, and it turns out I really wouldn't have. But I'm dedicated to this podcast, so you're welcome.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
He may not listen to it, but he is dedicated to it.
You know what? Why? What do you need to listen to it for? I was already here the first time.
Yep. Okay. Jen Star, roll that music. You can find us on all social media at goodbad_badgood. No, but I do think this could be a opportunity for us to. It's a good jumping off point for this movie because the past. Well, they don't know this, but we have a lost episode of Scarface. But that movie, and then last week we talked about how gangster films, why they are loved so much, and part of it is because they're so stylish and they're so cool and like they're just. So what the hell went wrong with this?
I figured it out because my thought was what you just said last night. And my answer is it's a British gangster film. This is not an American gangster film. This is a cup of tea gangster film. So it's slow.
Well, but it was
So
an
you think-
American.
you think they
that
should have been
directed it though?
It should have been more caffeinated.
It should have
They should have been drinking coffee.
They should have been drinking espresso. If it had been an Italian gangster film,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been all over the place. These long, drawn out shots would have been much quicker edits. It was just felt a little
So
pandering.
I
That's not a word.
Because nothing happens.
meandering.
Because There's no point to this plot.
What the fuck is happening today?
also-
Oreo and pandering.
You're also really red right now.
It's hot in here.
Is it?
I feel like it is. I'm schwitzing.
You're
you know?
also wearing a sweater.
And I went to the gym before this, and I have not gone to the gym in quite a while. So I was sweating, and now my body's like, oh, we can do this again.
Yeah. Brian, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
I was just saying there basically is no plot. Nothing happens. That's
Yeah.
why this is boring as shit.
Yeah.
But just real quick, how you mentioned this was a British gangster film. So I was reading that a big part of the reason why this movie got greenlit was because they brought an American guy to direct it. So they were hoping it wouldn't be as British in tone. So this guy, I was looking, he did Payback, he did LA Confidential, so he's done like other things. And so that was part of the reason they didn't want it to feel very British. But I mean, it still does. But like, I mean, literally, like, what was like the fucking, like, what happened in this movie? Like, it was basically just them, like, there was no point
See,
to any of it.
I think that there is a point. It's the story of two brothers, and of, essentially where the lesson learned is like,
The same as any other gangster movie.
Right.
Which is pride cometh before the fall.
Right, exactly that. But it's interesting that it's his brother and it's his twin, and you could have made it a lot more interesting if it was there was no flashy like sequences, there was no montage scenes, it was just slow scene after slow scene after slow scene, and it was super relationship based, or like each scene was very, very based on the relationships rather than the plot driving it, which most gangster films, it's the plot that's driving it, right?
Yeah.
There's a heist, or there's a
gang
situational.
war.
This was relational,
Yeah.
So it was,
But at the
this
same time,
odd
it's not
mix of,
even
like,
relational.
We're watching a drama.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it was meant to be, but it was done poorly. Like the whole
Because you also
relationship
hate
with
all the
his
relationships.
wife. Yes, and his wife, I could not with that whole relationship. She's just like a child the whole time who has no feeling or emotion about anything and then kills herself.
Yeah.
Like,
I also kind of hated the
Very
use of the
challenging to me.
voiceover throughout the entire movie. I was just not, it didn't work, I didn't think.
I think that was because they probably did test screenings and they're like, oh.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
That's why
Nobody
she has the
understands what
line
the
where
fuck's
she's
going
like,
on.
you may have thought the voiceover would be over because I died,
died.
but I'm
Yeah.
still here.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Yeah, that
say
was
exactly
weird.
that. I'm paraphrasing. That it is interesting though. Like about when I stopped it around the 30-minute mark, I'm like, I'm waiting for like the prologue scene to end.
Right.
Like I feel like so many gangster films start with like this big, we're going to be speaking about Scarface in like 2 weeks or whatever. But like that starts with like the murder of that diplomat in the camp. And like Goodfellas starts with the body in the trunk. And like there's all these things that like get you into this world immediately. That's like makes it more alluring. Whereas this is just like, I was waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, it takes
And then,
its
like,
time
that bar
watching,
scene-
watching two brothers build an empire.
But also we don't see that in a weird way.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like we don't see where they go. We don't see a point A to a point C or wherever they end up. It's just almost like they're already
Yeah.
feared. They're already like
Yeah.
gangsters.
Right. We didn't see the come up.
And then he says he's going to go clean a few times, but he never actually even goes clean.
No.
And then
No,
he
he
did
never
for
even
2
really tries.
weeks.
Yeah.
We only know that from the voiceover. That he goes
Yeah.
clean for 2 weeks, she says.
And his
I
attempt
must
to
have-
go clean basically was him also essentially extorting a guy for a share of his bar to go
Right.
clean.
that was the high
like,
low,
you
right?
still-
Or the
Well,
high.
because that's her like
Yeah, the-
her voiceover is like, you have to do a dirty
Right.
job to be able to go clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fucking stupid. But so like, there's this movie about these brothers. Like I was reading, there's at least one other show or movie that has been about these brothers. So like, there must be something to them to have warranted a movie or two movies, whatever it is. But I feel like you don't even get any sense that these guys are that big of a deal. Even in like their own little town. Like they
Yeah.
just seem like a bunch of idiots that go around knocking people out and shooting people. which doesn't really make them that unique in like a gangster mafia related way. So like, what is it about these brothers that makes people want to tell their story? Because I sure as fuck don't have any idea from this. They don't seem anything special.
So their story is pretty compelling, in my opinion, and the only reason I know that is because I read the entire Wikipedia on them, and it's long.
Well,
like, it's
well, then they
like,
did a bad job telling it in the movie.
And these were a few points that I was going to bring up. First of all, is it Reggie or Ronnie, the one that is
Ronnie
gay?
is the one that
Ronnie's
that
the one
has
that's in
mental
the
illness.
like asylum. Yeah.
Ronnie. Okay. Apparently, Ronnie wasn't very openly gay like he is in this movie.
Yeah, I
I
read that
kind
too.
of assumed because
of the time and
but yeah, that felt
1960s,
very.
yeah.
he was
very,
smart. Like, he knew that like it would be something that could be it could be like a vulnerability for him. So he
Sure.
knew to keep that closeted because he didn't want.
Right.
Which while I was watching this, I was like, huh, that like, wow, he was really this open and
Right.
like the 50s and 60s. Like,
Right.
that's like good on him. And like England, I guess, doesn't bat an eye at this back then.
Well, there also is part of me that because he was clearly not fully there,
Yeah.
that like he might not have even have cared about any of the way people
Backlash.
perceived him. So like I would have bought that he was that open about it. But yeah, I was reading also that like people around him knew, but
yeah.
the general people didn't know.
It was
Right.
kinda
Like,
like
he
an
may
open
not
secret.
just tell the American gangster,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
in that scene.
My point being, though, I
Yeah.
feel as though, because like also he's known as the more violent one, like in the more like just doing things for no reason type. Hence, we see that multiple times, like the hammers and
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
And I'm like, that could have been such an interesting character study of like, is he acting from this point of like repressed anger or like anger from his repressed identity? And like we don't see that because like everything's out in the open. So then it just becomes like, oh, he's just like schizophrenic.
Right.
Which
Except
is
for
like-
I didn't even feel. I mean, schizophrenia looks many different ways.
Of course, yeah.
But a family member of mine is schizophrenic, and it sure as hell has never looked as put together as he seems to be most of the movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we never
he's
see an
able to
episode.
Go,
Yeah.
No, right. We don't see an episode.
His
He
episodes
gets,
are just
he
kind of
gets
violent
really
episodes.
angry. But he doesn't get more angry than any gangster that we've ever seen on
Yeah.
any movie ever.
He's even
less.
tamer than like he's tamer than Joe Pesci and like Goodfellas.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like-
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that was one thing. The other thing that I was reading about the brothers is that they actually really wanted to be famous as well. So all throughout the like late 50s and 60s, they would bring paparazzi around like on purpose. They would coordinate their publicity to some extent.
Oh, really?
Love
So that
that.
people could get like they're seeing pictures of them next to like Judy Garland or them next to like Peter Sellers. Like,
Right. And they
these
make
big
some
names.
tiny little hint to the fact that there's celebrities that hang out in their bars. Like the first date that he brings her on to his bar, he being
Yeah.
Reggie. And he makes some, the celebrities come in here all the time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like, if that's the case, what you're saying, let's see some of that. That's interesting.
That's also like they are big
Yeah.
celebrities.
Right.
Like if Judy Garland is in like London and I was like, oh, I got to go to their club. Like
Right.
that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like this movie was just like, oh yeah, they're celebrities now, but we don't see anyone like
Well, that's
that
the problem.
other
You
than
don't
like
really
just the
see-
people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you don't really see any of the things that might make their story interesting.
Yeah.
It feels like it's all kind of just surface level going through, but not really getting into any details that matter for the most part.
I was not left in any moment with a feeling of devastation, which, like, there are things that happen in the story that could be devastating, but the way that they were done sort of smoothed over the rough edges. And so there was, and when I use the term devastating, I mean emotionally caught off guard and like taken aback at what the fuck I just watched, right? That could be the scene between husband and wife when she after her brother, or after the night at the bar when Ronnie says such horrible shit to her, right? That could be any of the moments where Ronnie goes ballistic, so to speak. That could be a multitude of things, but they
when
never
Reggie
actually
rapes her at the end of the movie.
I was about to say
but they
all
don't
of the
show
devastating,
us any of it.
Yeah.
all of the devastating things. Well, I don't think they needed to show us the rape.
No, but
I think it was very
mean,
clear.
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think they earned all of the devastating things that happened to the wife. Because so many of the things that are supposed to be devastating are to the wife, and she ends up committing suicide, and that's what happens in real life as well.
Right.
But it's like we don't. It's weird that we don't feel anything.
No.
So
no,
like
I felt nothing.
the suicide isn't earned. That's such a weird sentence to say, but like
Yeah.
in
I
the dramatic
totally-
like
I
in
totally
this dramatic
understand
realm
that.
of like
Because she doesn't seem to be phased by most
by
of
anything.
anything. Like
Yeah.
all of the scenes,
Yeah.
there's no moment where somebody's throwing a cup and freaking out and whatever. But I mean, I guess there's something to that in the sense of like she's just popping pills and like
I was about to say she's supposed to be heavily medicated, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like show us how dependent she is on
On
these.
the
Like
meds.
how
Yeah.
down this rabbit hole of addiction is she?
right.
Is she just
Yeah,
like
it came
I
out
take
of nowhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's just one scene where she's just taking a bunch of pills in her
And
bathroom.
and then they have to throw the voiceover in to let us know
Yeah.
that she started taking pills. Do you guys feel that Tom Hardy always mumbles in all the things?
I think he is a difficult actor to understand.
Mm.
From The Revenant to Dark Knight Rises to this
Well,
to
I
yeah,
thought
the Dark
in
Knight
Dark Knight
Rises, I almost
Rises
don't
was-
even count, like, because that was like on purpose that they made him sound like that in a way.
So I mentioned this to Travis earlier, but I feel like Ronnie, when he was playing Ronnie, he was very Bane-esque.
Agreed.
And I think
So-
the movies were shooting around the same time. So I wonder if,
Oh, I'm not sure.
weren't they? That it was
Dark
like
Knight Rises
2000?
came out in 2012, and then this came out in 2014.
Oh,
So
Okay.
it would be
it
at
would
least a few
be a
years.
couple years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like when he was Reggie, I had no problem understanding him.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he also, like, he's definitely got like some sort of like fake teeth prosthetics and that we'll get into this in production technical stuff, but the very clearly fake nose and like all the different prosthetics and stuff that probably impacted the way he spoke as well.
Yeah.
The last thing that I want to say about story, and this is about the true story, but in real life, apparently on his deathbed, Reggie admitted to killing
The Taron Egerton
Taron
character, I
Egerton
think, right?
character, which is like his
Yeah.
love, which is
His like lover.
Ronnie's lover.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would have been
Yeah. A really interesting.
that would have been a really interesting story. Like, what drove him to kill him?
But this was after,
I have no idea the timeline of when he died.
right? Because I wonder.
So like,
if-
did he go to prison and then come out? Like, I don't. Did he kill him in
Right.
prison?
Did he kill him in prison? Yeah.
I have no idea.
So the other thing that I thought was a little weird, like, but just speaking about Taron Egerton's character, was like, I mean, I guess this is obviously before he was like, he's a pretty big star now, but I'm looking like this came out after Kingsman,
Yeah,
and like he was because it was such a small, like, nothing role other than
Yeah.
a couple scenes.
Yeah,
But I guess because it was 8 years ago, maybe.
I was thinking that too. It literally came out the year after Kingsman, so I'm like,
Yeah, so they might have been filming it around the same time. Because, yeah, then, like, Eddie the Eagle came out, and then the
Yeah.
second Kingsman. And, I mean, Rocket Man was kind of, I feel like, when he really,
Yeah.
which was probably
I
4 or
haven't-
5 years after that.
I haven't seen that.
Oh.
I was looking at his filmography and I'm like, oh, I really don't like. Is he as big or is he big? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel
Well,
like he's
He's not A-list yet, though, right?
maybe A- list.
I've seen him in this, and I've seen him in Rocket Man. Every other movie that you just named, I have not seen.
You haven't seen the Kingsman
Oh,
movies?
No.
The Kingsman movies are fun.
Kingsman's great, yeah.
Well, I can't even think of
Yeah.
what it is right now.
It's with Samuel L. Jackson, Colin Firth, Mark Strong, and
Yeah, they're almost like a James Bond, but a little bit more
Oh, but there's
wacky and
several
out
of them.
there.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
seeing the. Yeah. I think I wanted to
Yeah.
see those when they came out, and I just missed
the
it.
the first one's great. The second one's a little weird. Not
Yeah,
nearly
but
as
it's
good.
okay.
And then the third one kind of rebounded it, but it's a prequel. And anyways,
Yeah. But
we
yeah, he
digress.
was in this Apple TV Plus mini series called Blackbird that came out last year that had Paul Walter Hauser, the guy who played what's the Atlanta Olympic bombing guy? I don't remember. You guys know who I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's in this Tetris movie that just came out not that long ago.
Oh yeah. I actually didn't. I thought his role in this was, I don't know, I would say actually substantial because he's kind of always around. So even if
I
he doesn't
guess.
have too many lines, I was paying attention to him quite a lot. Like the scene,
That's fair.
probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie actually was the scene where, because it was the only thing that made me feel like, ooh, God, cringy, can't watch this, was the scene where Ronnie gets up. Reggie's already gone to jail, and Ronnie gets up on the microphone at the club, and Taron Edgerton's character is like
He's like hooting and hollering,
cackling
yeah.
at the table. Yeah, which
Yeah.
was kind of cracking me up. But even that, I feel like why wasn't that scene pushed even further? You know? Why weren't we really watching some like fucked up manic episode or, happen on the stage? Nothing got pushed to the point that I expect when I'm going into watching a gangster movie.
All right, moving on to acting.
Tom Hardy got to play Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy's brother.
Yeah.
End of acting
I do think
section. Technical.
He was substantially good as Reggie.
It was great as Reggie.
He was really
Agreed.
good.
I actually thought he was even good as Ronnie too.
I applaud him for how different he chose to make it, because like
Yeah,
a less
I mean, that's
skilled
fair.
actor would just not make it distinctive in like even how his mouth like fell
Moved.
open compared to
The way he held his shoulders,
Yeah.
his like physical character was different. But I couldn't understand him as Ronnie.
Yeah.
And I also wanted Ronnie's character to be pushed a lot further so that there was this big difference between the very straight-laced, that's not the right word for a gangster movie, but the very put together
Yeah.
guy that, Reggie, who had it all under control, and then his brother who's just like falling off of
I mean, that could also be
off
directing
the
too,
rails,
though.
Right. And that's, and I think it is script and directing, because we've
Yeah.
seen that Tom Hardy can take it as far and delusional as he wants to take it. So it's not that I don't believe he couldn't have gone there, which makes me think it was
Yeah.
the choice of this
I think
film.
it's also what they're probably going off of what people have said about the two guys, right? Like a lot of the stuff that we may be hoping for, no one else got to see because it was like maybe behind closed doors or like whatever it may be. I don't know if I make any sense at that point.
No,
but
I get what you mean. With stories like this, too, I wonder, like, this wasn't that long ago. It is a true story. Whose family owns the rights to things? What were people comfortable?
True.
well, one
being
of them
shown
wrote a
and-
biography. So
Reggie
Oh,
or
really?
Ronnie?
I think it was Reggie.
Oh, okay.
So I would imagine that the TV and film rights were sold along with the
With that?
biography publishing rights. I would think. But yeah, he wrote all. So I don't know. I feel like I don't know. This movie stumps me.
Well, I will say, though, the actress that plays his wife, I had
Emily
It's tiny.
Browning.
Emily what?
Browning.
Browning.
What else is she in? Several things? Am I just out of the loop with Emily
I
Browning?
Yeah,
did not.
She
I
looked
mean,
familiar
I didn't know
to me,
her
but
in
I
anything
did not
else.
look her up to figure out what I knew her from.
Yeah,
But-
she's been in a bunch of things, but like not a ton of things that I've seen.
Oh, she's Violet in a series of unfortunate events.
For me, just based on this character and portrayal alone, it may have been the direction. Very much so may have been the direction, but I mentioned this before. She just doesn't seem like she's affected by
Yeah.
anything. She's kind of smiley in a lot of
Yeah.
the scenes that feel heavy to me.
Yeah. I do think a lot of that is probably the direction, but also the script, just the way
Yeah.
her character is written. Like her character is written in a pretty shitty way, I feel like. Like, just it's not a good fleshed out character.
No, and like how quickly I really struggled with when he comes. He's like, I've been waiting outside of her parents' house for 4 weeks. This is like end of the movie before she commits suicide. She's staying at her brother's house, and Reggie is like, yeah, I've been hanging outside of her parents' house, and then she comes out to talk to him, and how easily she is like persuaded to go to Ibiza was like insane to me.
The other thing, you're talking about the scene where she's at her brother's, right?
Yes, and they're like talking in the
But
apartment.
even before we see her, the brother's like, I've never seen her like this.
Yeah,
And then she
she's
walks up and
fine.
she looks like,
and she's fine.
yeah, she looks 100%, like no change whatsoever. Not distraught, not like,
Kind of bubbly almost.
Yeah,
there was
it was
like there
weird.
was kind of a smile on her
Yeah.
face for like a lot of the movie, and I was like, what is this? But because it's there constantly, that's what makes me think it's like it was a directorial choice, or it was like
Yeah.
a choice all the way through.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I agree 100% with all that. My only thing with that scene is I kind of got the sense, well, especially once you find out that she commits suicide, that she takes all those pills, I got the sense that she was almost just saying it just to go along with him, knowing that she
That she
wasn't
was
actually
gonna-
going to go
Yeah.
traveling anywhere with him. But I didn't think that at the time that the scene was going on,
Right.
it was, 10 minutes later or whatever it is that you find out she killed herself.
Right.
That I was like, oh, yeah, I think she was probably just playing along with him.
Right, but there's like no indication to that, which is maybe in the direction that like no indication that she may commit suicide, and like maybe they didn't want to
Yeah.
indicate that, but I would have liked maybe even a little hint where you go, oh, is she maybe like anything?
Yeah.
She didn't. Most of her scenes, I did not feel like she was making choices. Like her character was not making choices. There were no choices. She was just there as wallpaper to get
Yeah.
things thrown at, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
She definitely comes across like a very meek character.
yes.
yeah.
Without like
Yeah.
any sort of backbone, really.
Right.
Oh my gosh,
Or
The
Tim
only
Curry.
the only like backbone that she has is by telling her mother to fuck off, which we never even see either. All of the yelling scenes between her and her mother happen while Tom Hardy's sitting at the car outside of the apartment, and we hear the screams, and then she comes
Yeah.
out of the house. This happens twice, and she comes out of the house quite bubbly after we're supposed to believe she just screamed at her mother, which also makes me think it might have been a test audience thing, and they threw in that voiceover.
I really don't
Afterwards.
remember that. But I was just about to say, Tim Curry is in Legend?
Oh, and I
What?
was
With
like,
Tom
he's
Cruise?
not. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
glorious
that
movie.
legend.
He plays Darkness?
But can we? How did you wander over there?
It was
I love this guy who's always like, "Let's stay on track." He's fucking spacing out, not listening to anything we're talking about.
I was looking at
other movie.
I was looking at the IMDb for Legend, and then down, but like I was scrolling down, and then it said more like this, and the number one thing that's more like this is Legend.
Right, sure. It's not at all like
But I
that.
didn't know Tim Curry was in it. I don't remember so much of this movie, and I think
That's
that's
because
a
it's
problem.
all the same.
Yeah,
It's and this is.
and there
I should have
isn't
said
any
this
standout
during this-
acting, which is the category we're on right now.
Yeah, I should
See,
have mentioned this
I mean,
in story.
I did think Tom Hardy was very good. Everybody else I thought was just kind of whatever. But I did think, and I think like you said, because the two characters were so different, maybe not quite as different as they could have or should have been, but I thought he did a good job portraying the two brothers.
Yeah.
The question is, are we judging his acting through that lens of like, oh, it's so cool that he's two different people, and like that's such a stretch as an actor, or are we judging these
I
two
just
different portrayals
Hit it on the head.
with a hammer?
Yes.
With your brass knuckles.
No, the issue with this movie, not issue, but the difference between this movie and most other
good
gangster movies.
I
We
was gonna
said
say, and
tea
Legend.
versus coffee. No, there's no cocaine. If there was coke anywhere in this movie would have to be a little bit more, you know? Because you're
That's true.
coked out and you're watching coked out characters. And every other gangster movie, there's mounds of coke and people
there
are
cocaine in The
snorting
Godfather?
cokes. What?
Is there cocaine in The Godfather? I don't.
There's gotta be.
I don't think there
'Cause
is because they
I like the point I'm trying to prove. So there's gotta be. I haven't seen The Godfather in quite a long time.
because they specifically say like we don't get into drug stuff because that's beneath us. I know this in Godfather Part 2, they start to delve into drugs.
Well, the majority of movies that I'm thinking of, we have even Smoking Aces.
drugs of some kind, but
even
like
Smoking
drugs though.
Aces, yeah, drugs. There's something right there. These gangsters are not they're not dabbling in the drug world whatsoever. They're not selling it. They're not.
They're not dabbling in any.
What the fuck are they dabbling?
In anything that is illegal? Because like
period.
even like. You know, if you look at the original Scarface from 1938, that's like set in the Prohibition era. So they're like dealing with like alcohol and like how that's illegal. And like with this, it's just like money extortion and money laundering, which just doesn't make for a compelling.
And anger management.
I think maybe that's what it is. It's like when you get into drugs, then there's the addiction aspects of it, because then the gangsters are getting high on their own supply.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole other element to it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the only drugs we have in this movie are medication for mental illness and then her being
Yes, I
drugged
call
up.
on Travis.
Yes.
What does the guy who goes to kill the sergeant snort? You know, when he goes to kill
Kills the sergeant?
not the sergeant. So the guy who
like the accountant guy?
So in the end, this is the last 10 minutes. He kills that one dude at the party with the knife.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But he does that because he goes to attempt to kill the detective.
Like
right?
it's like their accountant or business manager or something.
Oh, that
like
wasn't
that.
the detective?
No, that's their
No.
business manager.
That was the guy that Ronnie
The detective
hates
lives.
the entire time that works for them.
Well, the guy who shot lives too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
No, but the guy that
The
he
older
goes
white guy,
to
I
try
mean,
to
they're
kill
all
on the
white.
front
No.
steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the-
like their business
Their
manager
business
or accountant
manager.
or whatever.
Which
I thought that was
also,
the
I
detective.
thought about, no, that's the business manager, which I actually thought about that guy when I mentioned the Coke thing, because I was thinking, because I was getting back to acting, like what an interesting character to be these guys' business manager. Yet not much interesting was done with that character. And I don't think it was the actor, because I've seen that actor act in many things and he's great. And he was even good in this for how it was directed or what they gave him or what the script was like. But like, I want to see people who there were no stakes. Like, where were the stakes for any of these characters? Like, I don't feel like any of them are ever like, oh, fuck, we're in danger. Or, oh, fuck, the club's going down because Ronnie's fucking it up because Reggie's in jail. We're going to lose all of the shit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
There's no stakes. Like, everyone's playing it like, oh, well, I guess the club's going down and next week we owe back taxes on everything. And it's just,
but like,
it
even
is what it
that-
is. Let me have another whiskey at the bar. You know, you're like, what?
But
what?
like even that, like Ronnie gets on stage, has his little antics or whatever, where Taron Egerton's hooting and hollering and cheering him on, and then all of a sudden the next scene is, I guess it flash forwarded like 6 months because Reggie's out of jail, and then they go back to the club. They never actually make it seem like the club is in danger of losing all of its patrons just because of the one outburst from Ronnie.
Well, they close that club, right? Because then that's why he goes and gets the
and
second
buys
club.
the other one.
Well,
yeah.
because
In the
because
West
people
End.
stop going to
but
the
we
club.
don't see that, right? We don't.
No.
Like,
That's what I'm saying.
I just feel like so much of this movie,
Suck.
the the parts that could have been interesting and could have raised stakes was all done like with the VO. Like the wife was like, "Well, Reggie's back in prison."
Yeah, that's
and I'm like,
true.
"Well, how did he get caught?" And then she said, she says like, "It's money extortion." And I'm like, "But like,
Let's see that.
what was it like arresting him? He's like an angry man, and like did he?"
So then really this movie, that's not what this movie was going for. This movie was like, we're going to take some hardened criminals and we're going to show their softer side. We're going to show the relationship of family between brother and brother. We're going to show the relationship with the wife. We're going to dive into this.
I
'cause
also
nobody
have
else
an issue
dives
with the
into it.
relationship of the brothers though too, because his wife makes a really good point. She says, "What about your loyalty to me?" Because he says, "I have to be loyal to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's my brother." But I'm
Yeah.
like, also like, do they even like each other? Like, I don't.
No, I mean, by
They're
the
both
end, he
two
says
very
to
selfish
him,
people. It just, I find it hard for me to believe that this dude wants his brother around, even though he is clearly sinking the ship that he's trying to like.
right.
Yeah.
Right, to the point,
We
right,
needed
that
something
there's
like
not
Fredo
enough...
being killed. Spoiler alert for Godfather Part 2. Fredo being killed by Michael. You know, like
Right.
Michael was like, I don't care if he's my brother. We're still
Right.
'cause
Right.
he's an idiot.
Right. There's not enough struggle
Mm-hmm.
with how much Ronnie is fucking shit up.
yeah.
It's like there's no struggle, or we see a little bit and then he breaks and he stabs the fuck out of this guy and then he says, I only killed him because I can't kill you.
Yeah.
You know? And it's
Yeah.
like that would have been a great moment had we seen the transition to that moment, or the arc to that moment.
Yeah, I guess we never see Reggie actually feel like he's fed up or like
Even when he fucking yaks
When he
the guy
shoots
in the
the-
bar,
yeah.
and then they're at his mom's house and he seems so composed at his mom's house, and you're like, yes, he's composed because he's keeping it together for mom, but I want to see him having to keep it together.
yeah.
And if he was on coke, it'd be a lot more fun to watch that scene.
And I think this goes down to technical, because in that scene he's sitting there but he's not like responding to like anyone on the other side of the
Right.
room because
right.
he would be there.
Right.
So like I feel like that's where the disconnect in their relationship comes down to, is like everyone else is reacting to Tom Hardy in each role, but like Tom Hardy doesn't get to react to Tom Hardy in the other role.
That's very true, actually. He doesn't have his main antagonist,
His main antagonist is
to
him,
play off
yeah.
of. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that, but that's so
'Cause, like,
true.
In that scene in particular, and by the way, we are moving to technical at this point. In that scene in particular, Ronnie is sitting there and he's like just so like kind of composed, but also like a little smug. Like I got the sense of like, you're not going to do anything because we're at mom's.
Right. Yes. This is why
And
I
I
chose
feel
to come
like
here, and I'm staying
I feel like
here
Reggie
tonight.
would be pissed at that.
Yeah.
He would be so mad at that. Like, I know I'm not going to do anything because I respect mom and
So
her
here's
house,
the
but-
other thing, though. If Tom Hardy knows what Tom Hardy... If Tom Hardy as Reggie knows what Tom Hardy as Ronnie is going to do, then why not play off of that? Do you know what I mean? If Tom Hardy is like, I'm going to act smug as Ronnie in this scene, so then Tom Hardy as Reggie can be like, okay,
Maybe
I'm
he
acting
filmed Reggie
against somebody.
first.
So
Before
that-
he realized what he was
that's
gonna
that's
do.
the
That's what I was
question of
gonna
like
say.
what, or
I wonder
it's
if
in the
he-
editing choices, and there is a take where he plays Ronnie smug
Sure.
and he plays Reggie off of Ronnie
Sure.
smug. But when they got into the editing room,
sure.
the editor
I
was
was
like,
reading that he played whichever character had the more lines in a scene first, and then would go do the other brother, whichever one it was.
So there wasn't consistency of like, all right, I'm always shooting Reggie stuff first and then Ronnie to
Bouncing
respond.
it off of.
Or like I'm always shooting Ronnie first and then Reggie responding.
Right.
It was just like whatever the AD has for the setup today.
scheduled, right? Which would have been
Whichever
really
one I have.
challenging for makeup, though, too. Because you'd think that
Well,
if
they would. I
you'd think you would
think they
wanna
would just have both set up and ready to go, and they're like, whatever one they're shooting first, we do that one.
Right. So you shoot, but what I'm saying, because what Brian just said is like, no, it's not like, oh, I'm Reggie for the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day I'm Ronnie. It's like, for this scene, I'm Reggie, and then I'm Ronnie. And then
for
we
the
move on to the
scene-
next scene. Now I'm Ronnie.
Oh shoot, yeah.
And that, you know what I mean? That would be...
Yeah.
I wonder if they just did because then they might change locations. Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say, I wonder if they just did all the days shoot, whether it's like the mom's house and then they're at the bar or whatever, did all those as one and then went back and did all of them.
those.
But
So you
that's-
just keep the lighting
that's a
setups
lot,
on
yeah.
everything?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Well, we found the flaw. That's
It. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Any other notes on technical though? Because obviously,
Oh, I have a lot of technical notes.
Go for
I
it.
mean,
Yeah, me too.
I thought the lighting in this movie was beautiful. I thought some of the shots were really beautiful. The cinematography was great.
I thought the production design was great.
It was, production design
I
was
thought
great.
the set deck looked really good for the most part too.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I read that they shot all on location. Like they didn't shoot
Yeah.
on any stage at all.
Oh,
so those are like
interesting.
actual locations.
Oh, that's, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and I thought the wardrobe was awesome. I thought I actually liked the score a lot.
Oh.
No, you did
I
not.
don't even remember the score.
It was.
I feel like I never paid
minimal.
attention.
I was
to the
like, I
score.
think Kai and I are 2 weeks in a row. Like, I'm watching a
You're
movie
very-
and I'm like, all right, Kai's gonna think this. And then I was wrong. Because this time I was watching it and I'm like, oh, Kai's gonna hate the score. Because like
It gets a
anytime it gets gets emotional, it's like do 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 do.
So
do.
there's a lot of
piano.
flute
The
in this
it's
score.
piano and flute of like, be sad, please. Do, do,
Yeah. There,
Feel emotion, please.
Yeah, right.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, but yeah. No, you are right about that. But I think it needed it. Like I think I liked it because I was like, it needs something here, which.
You need some emotion.
Give us something. I don't even care if you're giving it to me with
Yeah.
the music at this point because I'm not getting it from anywhere else. So
Yeah.
please help me along.
The thing that I did, so it was funny because for Smoking Aces, I remember, Kai, you thought that the audio mix was not good.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no issues for that. For this one, I thought the audio mix was shit. I had to turn on the subtitles because the music and the sound effects were so much louder than the vocals.
I turned on
and-
I also
Because
had
the
the,
accent?
but it was because of Tom Hardy. I couldn't understand.
I
what was wrong
refuse
with
to
the
do the
yeah.
subtitles if they're speaking English because I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out. But the movie
Yeah.
wasn't gripping enough for me to actually like. I'm gonna listen to it and like figure it out. I'm just like, I don't know. He said banana or something right there. Like, I have no idea.
For me, yeah, it didn't have anything to do with the accents. It was just they were so buried. The vocals were so buried in the mix that like I didn't want to have to crank the volume up to like 100 just to hear the voices, because then the music and sound effects would have made my ears bleed.
Right.
So I was like, I'm just putting on the
mean,
subtitles.
Even if it was at 100, it would just be like,
At some point, you're gonna want to be directing a movie, and you're gonna want Tom Hardy as your star, and he's gonna be like, "I loved your script, and I would absolutely do this movie if someone else directs it. You fucking asshole."
yeah.
No.
I did think the first time that Reggie takes Francis to his club early on in the movie, it was like a 5-minute one continuous shot.
That was the
As
only
he's,
shot
like,
that I
walking
actually
through
really
the club.
liked.
Yeah, and that was going to say that was, I thought, really well done. I thought that was a very impressive shot.
And I
I just-
specifically remember, that shot that you're talking about, Brian. And I also, when they like, after he goes in, handles his work that he had to do, and then comes back, I literally paused it and I go, wait, has this all been the same shot?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was like, it was a very cool moment.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Hardy, I did not mean any offense in any way by what I said. It wasn't just you, it was everyone. No, but really, it wasn't just Tom Hardy. Like, it was
So none of them are going to act in any of your future
other than
films.
the only one I could hear perfectly was the wife. But she didn't have as deep of the glow. It wasn't like back here as much.
Right.
It was like more
She's
front for her.
dainty.
Yeah. But thank you for watching this, Mr. Hardy. And if you could like and subscribe below, that would be great. You could share it too on your Instagram.
Can we just call this episode Mr. Hardy
Yeah.
and then tag him in everything, in all of it?
No, because if he's actually mad at me, please don't.
Please no.
So one issue that I kind of had throughout
I loved
the
you
entire,
as Charles Bronson.
Who didn't?
the whole idea of him as both characters, there are a lot of times where it very obviously looked like it didn't look like two people in the same scene. Like there were almost times where I was looking at him playing both characters in the same shot, and like the lighting was almost different for one of the brothers, even though they're supposed to be in the same room. I felt like the prosthetics, like I mentioned before, like Ronnie's nose was so obviously fake. Like you could see the color difference between his nose and the rest of his face.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice the
But I
prosthetic.
did
Oh, I
notice.
did.
I noticed the teeth
Yeah.
a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But I didn't
Yeah.
notice the nose.
Yeah, I definitely thought his nose was like almost like a paler shade than the rest of his
Interesting.
face.
Interesting.
There was one time, I can't remember if it was in the scene where they're fighting, the two and they're fighting in the empty club, like right when he gets out of jail or whatever.
That scene was
where
rough.
it was, yeah, so like I thought the special effects of the two of them fighting was not good. Like it very clearly was body doubles.
yeah.
There was one scene, I can't remember if it was in that, it must have been in that fight scene where they were like standing there, and I think he almost had him like in a bear hug or something like that. But like it was very clearly Tom Hardy's face as Ronnie on a stunt double's
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That just did not look good. Considering you're trying to make an entire movie where two guys playing the same character, I thought it too often looked fake.
I agree with you, but I do not want to badmouth.
Now he's
Mr.
thinking
Hardy.
about all of
No,
the yeah,
no,
all
no,
the
no.
people that you should not
I,
talk shit about.
no.
It's too late, Travis. We've excommunicated ourselves.
Blacklisted?
We've blacklisted ourselves from all
Yeah.
types of people.
Yeah, I mean, they're
doing
even
this
cutting your
show.
scenes now because they
I
heard about our podcast.
know. We don't want to go there. Let's not talk about it.
No, it's such a hard thing to do.
Agreed.
And I feel like all the outside of that scene, because that scene is rough. The visual
Yeah.
effects when they're like motion tracking his face onto another body, you could clearly tell it looks a lot
Yeah.
darker.
Yeah.
But for 95% of the rest of the film, I thought it looked
Yeah.
flawless.
Mhm.
Like it was very clear, especially if you're in like post and have done something like this before. It's very clear that they're splitting the frame and doing a split frame. and,
Sure.
like,
For sure.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
someone who doesn't know those things possibly wouldn't have ever noticed. And there were several
Probably
moments
not.
where they were on opposite sides of the frame and then they would cross that like vertical line.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh dang, that rotoscoping artist like had to like rotoscope that one hand that like went across
Oh,
the like
interesting. Yeah,
and
yeah.
came back. And I'm
yeah.
like, that looks great. Okay, I'm going to badmouth that scene. When they go to the like front and they're like slapping the camera,
Oh God. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would have almost I would have preferred just really bad VFX motion tracking face onto a body and seen a full fight. A good choreographed fight.
Because
as
no
opposed
At
to
least
other
put like
well, right, because
at least
no
put a body
other
double
time,
from behind, so it just looks like the back of his head. That would have been better than slapping the camera.
the camera, right? Because from in no
Yeah.
other place in this movie
It's jarring.
are
It's
we.
so jarring.
It's so
Yeah.
jarring. Are we like a
Yeah.
POV? It's
Yeah.
like it makes
rem-
no sense.
It
yeah.
reminded me of what felt like video game cutscenes in Motherless
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
When they would cut to like POV
Forgot
shots,
about
and I'm like,
that.
wait, why? This is
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
I forgot we
Oh,
watched
God,
that movie.
Motherless Brooklyn.
Like,
That was
hey,
my choice
Mr. Norton, are you
too.
okay?
I'm sorry, you guys.
You're failing,
Now
Kai.
I am sorry. I'm very
You-
sorry. You know what it is? It's like these actors that I love. So I'm like, ooh, I get to just
Yeah.
like watch the thing do the thing. But then I'm like, ooh, no. There's
She
a
loves these
reason.
actors so much, she calls them things.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
That guy
Is there any other
thing
technical?
in the thing? There was something. Oh, well, it's a pet peeve, but it is a technical
Do you want
pet
to just move
peeve.
to nitpicks?
We're moving to nitpicks. Here's my nitpick. What was his wife's name?
Francis.
Frances. Thank you. I like that name actually. I should remember that. Frances, her hair is highlighted like you would get in a professional studio in 2001.
Yeah, I didn't even notice her hair.
Somebody from 1960s,
She had
from
hair?
the 1960s, it would have been
She
just
had hair?
one. She had hair, yeah.
She wasn't bald?
Wait, did we watch the same movie? I really, to me, I kept feeling like I needed her hair to all be one color and not
Interesting.
the frosted highlights that it was. Drove me nuts. But I don't know. Hairstylists out there, tell me, am I incorrect?
If
Were
you're from
there-
England, can you let us know if this was a common
If you were a
hair trend?
hairstylist in 1960s England,
First
yeah.
of
Let us
all,
know.
Let me know.
thank you for watching. Second of all,
Or
let us know.
listening.
They were listening.
third of all, like and subscribe.
I mean, I don't know what filmmaker had said it. I'm blanking on who it was, but there's this like there's this famous quote. I'm gonna look it up, but it's like you can make a really really good movie, and it's okay to make a really really bad movie. But the one thing you can't do is make a really boring movie. And I feel like that sums up this movie for me, of just like
this.
so much money and so much talent, like, and just if they would have just done one more pass on the script, or maybe two,
Or just cut, like, there's so many superfluous scenes.
there's
that were
just
like,
there's no culminating, like,
yeah, and you're just giving us
there's
the
no,
same
like-
information, scene after scene after scene after scene.
there's no Henry
after
Hill
scene.
like looking at the helicopters and like driving, like that scene,
Right.
or like there's no you know, like there's nothing
This movie would have been good if they had completely rewritten the script into something better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, for me, it's a bad, good movie because not that I loved the script, but because one, I didn't enjoy watching it so much. And two, I do think that the story, as you brought up their Wikipedia page, is probably compelling if you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Or like take some, what's the word I'm looking for? Take some.
I mean, he killed his
Liberties.
lover.
liberties. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah,
take
take
some
some
liberties,
liberties.
like everyone does. You
Yeah.
know?
He killed his brother's lover. I feel like, how do you not put that in to this film?
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Except for, I do want to know now when it happened. If
Yeah.
that happened in like 1995.
And apparently,
in prison.
Yeah.
they were. I was reading that Frances and Reggie were not even married for like a year. It was like 8 months or something like that. And she actually committed suicide like a few years after they had already split up.
Oh,
So they got married in
interesting. So
19
it wasn't. So they did take liberties.
They got married
Yeah,
in
of course.
1965. They were apparently together for 8 months, and then they separated. And then she killed herself in 1967. So 2 years after her marriage started.
So what are we watching next week?
Next week we keep this. I think we're just gonna keep going down in terms of quality of film.
Just come down with us.
Yeah, I forget what's next week.
Hi.
Kai, move it back.
Oh, did I smack it?
Yeah.
Are we good now? Can you just keep getting shots where I'm just playing in the...
This is devolved greatly.
Tune in next week for week 4. No,
Week 3.
week 3 of our gangster movie marathon fest. And we're watching Gangster Squad, which I feel like we will feel very similar as we did to this movie.
I don't think I've seen this one.
I definitely haven't.
Good cast though.
Yeah, exactly. Good cast. It's an amazing
Ooh, Josh
true story about an LA mobster. Like, it just
Ooh, Michael Papa John.
Yep, Papa John. He will be there.
What a great name.
All this to say, if you want to watch Tom Hardy in a really good movie that I feel like is often overlooked, go watch Locke. He plays a man who literally just sits in a car for an hour and a half driving and is on the phone with several different people. And it is some of the best acting from him I have ever seen.
Nick
And a
Nolte?
phenomenal
Oh, man.
example of low-budget
Robert
indie
Patrick.
filmmaking.
Michael Pena? Anthony Mackie? This is a hell of a cast in this movie next week. I know it's going to be terrible, though.
Thank you for listening this week listening and watching this week to Good Bad Bad Good. You could find us on all social media at goodbad_badgood. You could find me on all social media at Travis_Orozco. You could find Brian at
Bossip on Instagram.
and Kai at
Kylene am I on things.
Until next
On
time.
things.
Bye.
Bye. Stab, 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 stab.
Good Bad Bad Good is an Ex Nihilo production. Original theme music and sound engineering done by GANGSTER Hacker. Find her at hackersoundmusic.com. Opinions expressed are solely that of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views of any entity they represent.